What is up, Cupcakes? It's your boy, Paperback Dan, and I'm here with Comic Connor, if he wants to say hi.
Hi, everyone.
And we also have a special guest, since Taylor is not here for the second week in a row, but no one's counting. We've got Hess, hailing from Canada, as Taylor would say. So, Hess, if you'd like to make your introduction to these fine people.
Hey guys, I'm Unholy Hess from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, north of the border. Let's talk some comic books.
Awesome. I love how you were just like giving out all this information. But no, it's cool. It's cool. I'm glad that we got you here.
We can now track you down.
Yeah, maybe probably shouldn't have said that.
Edit out.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. Nobody's that interested in me anyway.
I felt that, but maybe we're getting too dark for this video. So Connor, why don't you tell us what you got this week, buddy?
Oh man. Oh, okay. So this week there was actually a really good week. The first thing I'm going to bring up, because it's probably my least favorite of the week, but I buy it digitally, is Batman by James Tynion. That's the end of his run. It was a fart cloud of an end. It's just a nothing of an end. There's just nothing. It's all right. Like, I expected much bigger. I thought it was going to end with a bang, and because they've been hyping Williamson taking over, and the way they were talking about it, like Batman's leaving Gotham and stuff, I thought there was going to be like a very much like a cliffhanger of sorts, but no, there isn't. And this current event, Fear State, it didn't need to be an event. It was a bit of a waste of time. It's just really weird. I mean, I've spoken about this with Hess before. The run in general is just really weird. Because,
it's not bad. It's not awful or anything, but it doesn't feel like anything's happening.
So did it not, like, live up to the hype, essentially? Because I feel like all these people were excited for Tom King to get off the book, and then once Tynion took over, they were like, "Oh, okay, like we're going to be back to having like a good Batman title or whatever."
Yeah, that's how I felt about it. Exactly. I was looking forward to Tynion taking over because I really liked what he did with Detective Comics, and I like him in general as a writer. This is kind of the first time that I've just been kind of meh on him. It's an outlier, but
yeah. I have no clue like what the game plan was here. I don't know if, like, because originally I believe they offered him like a longer contract. So I think initially the idea was he was going to be on Batman for a long time. But now he's leaving. I don't know what sort of legacy this run's going to leave, because I don't think it's a bad run. There's been a lot of things he's done that I think have been like, there's been a lot of ideas that have been great. Like, in particular, I mentioned in a recent video, what he's done with Harley Quinn, I think is fantastic. I think that's one of the best things about the run. One of the reasons I continue to read it, because I enjoyed her aspect of it. But, like, the series really focused on introducing character after character after character, to the point where sometimes it felt like Batman was in the background. And now that we're at this point, none of them really had an overall, like, a major part to play in this final Tynion event.
Right.
And Williamson's taking over. Now, I'm really excited for Williamson taking over. I think he's done amazing this year with all the titles he's writing. But it remains to be seen whether he's going to take these characters that Tynion set up, or if they're just going to be left to the wayside. And I think that's a big. I think this run will be defined by the future and how much it sets up. Like, I think Detective Comics, the reason that's so good is because so much of Batman's status and the Bat family status is built from that right now. But this Batman run itself, I don't know if it's going to have a lasting impact or effect in the long run. Because, as I say, like, this event, I remember reading an interview, he hyped this up as like every Batman villain has had an event that was like theirs. And this was Scarecrow's. Like, Scarecrow had never had an event that was like designed around him. And then reading it, I'm like, he still hasn't had one, because it's just a bit of a waste of time with him. And without spoiling, I just was the Scarecrow has this really wicked design and the redesign, and I feel like he just went nowhere. And I just don't know. As I say, I think it's it's the quality of this run will be dictated by what comes next.
So I largely agree with that. I think Tom King had big shoes to fill after taking over from Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Because man, that's a run that everybody says great things about, right? Like I'm indifferent. We've had this talk to you. I'm indifferent to the last half of it, but man, I loved the first half. It was big shoes to fill. And then Tom King's Batman was just so painfully average. I was looking forward to Tinian coming onto it, and then again, the wheels just kind of spun. And I don't know if maybe DC editorial is like interfering a lot and trying to tell the writers what to do, and maybe that's why Tinian was so eager to take this Substack deal and leave Batman, because man, can you imagine being 34 years old writing Batman and then turning down like a 3-year contract from DC?
Yeah,
that's insanity to me. That's like the peak of comic book writers' success almost, in a way, or at one point it would have been seen that way.
I think the interesting thing between the two runs is like I don't know what one I could say was better. I think Tom King's, it's the same idea. Like we've said before, I think up to the wedding of Batman and Catwoman, it was like a relatively decent quality. After that, it really like spiraled and it didn't know what went to be. Now, again, like you said, I don't know if editorial had a part to play in this. I do think that King did certain things better and Tinian did other things better. Like Tinian clearly like likes writing team books. Like,
yeah, when he did that Detective Comics run, that was largely a team book. Man, that was good stuff. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And the thing is like when I think back to what he's wrote on DC, like the first thing I remember reading of him in DC, outside of Scott Snyder, was Red Hood, which is a team. And then this new Batman title, he introduced so many characters. Like he very much made the Bat family a team. Even if like I'm going to be bringing it up later, but Nice House on a Lake does a lot of characters. He clearly likes a lot of characters to play with. Whereas Tom King, as much as that people may have seen that as mediocre, at the very least, Batman was always the focus.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad that you brought that up, because Tom King's Batman largely was about breaking Batman and having the wedding with Catwoman fall through, and then the whole thing with Alfred and Damian and Bane and Thomas Wayne from Earth 2. And that where Tinian's run was largely breaking up the Bat family and alienating Bruce from them too, right? So he was trying to take that a step further almost and push Batman into the background, like you said.
And I think that's the thing, like overall, if you look at the grand scale of like where Batman's and the Bat family have been in the last, like, I'd say even like 5 years, it is actually a really interesting picture. But if you look at the individual run, it's not so interesting. You know, it's just everyone seems to build off the previous run. And like as I say, there was things that the things that people didn't like about King's run, Tinian seemed to take and then kind of modify to make matter a bit more. But then there's things that he's done that I'm presuming Williamson will modify. And so it's kind of leading to like a big, like the story is progressing and there is quality there. It's just no one seems to hit that balance of getting everything right.
Yeah, spinning a lot of plates almost, or doing a lot of things well, but nothing great.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last comment I'll make on it though is that I'm extremely looking forward to Williamson taking over. He's had crazy amount of indie books and DC books that I've loved his writing on, and I think he'll be a great fit for Batman.
Yeah, I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm not gonna drop Batman yet. I stuck through it through all of Tom King's run and all of Tinian's run, so I'm gonna give Williamson a chance. But I am kind of looking to trim down my already slim pull list.
Yeah, I think because I as I say, I've been getting Tinian's run digitally. I got King's run singles and that, like physically, and then I got a bit bored, but then I got it digitally, and I've done digital all the way up till now. And I think I'll get physical with Williamson again, just because the art looks pretty sick. But on that note,
you know who's the art for it? For when Williamson takes over?
I think I could be completely wrong, but I think I saw it said something like, I think his name was like George Molino. something like that. But the cover of it looked really cool. But I haven't seen any previews or anything yet. But yeah. So on that note, yeah, that was Batman for this week. The next book I'm going to talk about is Dark Ages 3. Yeah. Did anyone else read this one?
No, I have not.
I also did not. Spoiler alert, I didn't get any new books this week because my comic shop didn't have them.
Boo!
I know. I don't know what happened. They told me to check on Friday to see if they get the new stuff. So depending on what I get, maybe in next week's video, I'll quickly go through all my shit from this week.
That's cool. We got your back. We got your back.
So Dan, we got this before we spoil anything for you, if that's gonna happen.
Yeah. You weren't reading, but the thing is, you're waiting. Are you Dark Ages? You said you were waiting for
Yeah, no, I am waiting. Only because there's not going to be a new one next month. The next one isn't coming out until January, and I didn't feel like waiting like an extra month with nothing happening in between. So I wanted to let it build up a little bit more. So then I'll probably read all 4 issues come January. This way, when it starts gearing towards the end of the book, I can keep up, and then maybe we can do a video about it or something.
So the thing is with this book, right? Like, first thing I want to say, the covers are totally misleading. I don't think I've read a single cover yet that I've read the book and went, oh, that was a good representation of what went on in the issue. It's good fun. Like, I'm enjoying it. I don't know if it's because I'm reading so many series right now that are just a gimmick. Like, there's like 12 issues and they have a gimmick. DC versus vampires, or Dark Knights of Steel, or this, or and funnily enough, it seems to be Tom Taylor's thing that he does that. And they're always like well written at the very least. But yeah, like, it's fine. It's good, but there's no meat to the bone to me. It's like, it feels very much like it's a brand new world. A lot is going on, and you're being introduced to it, whilst there's also a story that needs to be substantial enough for you to care, but it means you're kind of missing out on like the world itself. The thing I liked about the first issue is it was a good introduction. It introduced you to certain characters, but it made sure to make the characters were at the forefront, and the gimmick was kind of a catalyst, but you still felt it. My thing with issue 2 and 3 is I've not felt it as much. It just feels more of a gimmick, I think this book could read really well as like a trade or collected, but it's another one of those, like, it's starting to get to me like I said about DC versus vampires, a book that could just be read as a trade, and you could easily just wait until the end. Whereas, like, with something like Dark Knights of Steel, the first issue, the way that ended, I was like, damn, I have to read this single issues. I don't feel like there's enough of a hook here for me to go, I have to read that next single issue,
Right.
But it's because it's well written and the art is great. It's just there's not enough there for me.
Right. Let's say I think like you touched on, the cover is not really representing what is inside the book very well. That's kind of disappointing to hear, especially because I think that, like, the covers have been pretty awesome, honestly.
Yeah.
I really liked all 3 of them so far. I mean, what was it, last month? I went back and bought the second one because they gave me the variant, but I preferred the regular one.
Yeah, because we had that whole conversation. Yeah. And the thing is like, the covers are really cool. So, like, this issue as well, I went into it thinking, okay, well, if I read this issue, like, I imagine, like, I'll see some of this stuff, and you don't see what the cover of issue 3 is. You don't see that at all. I know that's comics and sometimes that happens, but I don't know, like, it's really weird. I think that issue 2's cover baffles me a bit because it has so many things on the cover that I would deem as almost spoilerish because it reveals characters and how they look, and yet they don't play a part in the book at all. Like, they're still to come. It's just very odd as a teaser, I guess.
And there's no since it's not like a main universe title, there's no like weird tie-ins or like supplementary books, right? It's just the Dark Ages title and that's it.
Yeah, and it feels like the sort of thing that DC did with Deceased. They very easily could like do spin-offs or sequels or whatever. It's just like that worked for Deceased because it was kind of a surprise, but doing this format and this style of book now, it's like there's a lot of them coming out now, and it's kind of like you have to justify why you're on the shelf. And I know that these all tend to be 12 issues, but like we have to remember that we're reading them as issues and not just the entire story. They read monthly. And I just don't know if the hook is there enough for people to go, I need to read that. You know, all right, for an issue 1, you always jump on it, but afterwards, you know, is it good enough? Again, it's well written enough, but is it good enough to justify picking up next month, like DC versus Vampires? No, I don't think so.
Comics have such a weird dynamic, eh? Like a lot of these stories read better as collected editions, but the collected editions don't exist without the monthly comics. So how do they balance that kind of thing, right?
It's weird because like you always hear the argument that like you have to support the books that you want, and I've been a big like advocate of that the last however many weeks we've been doing these videos. I keep saying that like I buy the books because I'm trying to like vote with my money. And it is weird because I usually prefer to read a trade like most of us. I mean, singles are great. I think that anticipation like between each issue every month is like irreplaceable. But you know, sometimes it just kind of sucks to have to wait somewhere between like 3 to 5 weeks.
I think it's something that, you know, Tom King is really good at, regardless of what people's thoughts are on him. I think he does 12-issue series, but he doesn't do like these gimmick sort of things. He does more like takes a character and kind of studies them. Now, okay, it's always in the same sort of way. It's always a bit depressing, and you know, it's always more of a negative way, a negative look at a character and how they're feeling. But he seems to like. I always feel like if I read a single issue of like one of his 12-issue series, I'll be like, oh, this feels like a good, like I feel like I got something out of this. It's not just like, as I say, a gimmick. It's like there's a point to this issue, you know? Right. I mean, that's why like Vision is heralded as a classic, you know, and I definitely got that with the Mega Man. But like with these new 12-issue runs, they're all designed off of gimmicks and rather than the characters themselves. And that's, as I say, that was my biggest compliment about the first issue, is that centered around like Peter and certain other characters, it felt like you were experiencing like Doomsday through them, and it was quite well characterized. But that's kind of missing for me in issue 2 and 3. It now just feels a bit gimmicky. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, okay. So that's my second issue this week. The next one I'll talk about is Moon Knight. Nice. Number 5. That's more of the same. I think it's a good series, but it's just like I'm waiting for it to dig in more. Like it's just not digging in enough. It's really well characterized. The Moon Knight is such an interesting character, and they kind of, I've had a thing, there's been this thing in my head reading it to do with Moon Knight himself. They've done this interesting thing that isn't really noticeable until you think about it, and I was waiting for that to be brought up, and I think it's a way to be brought up, so it's cool. Also, the cliffhanger of this issue is awesome. It really teases a really exciting direction, maybe even a villain, and the art is awesome. It just, do you know what I think my problem with Moon Knight is? It doesn't feel like he's in a city. It just feels like he's kind of there. I feel like the issues are like he's protecting this part of the city, but I never feel like you're getting a sense of place or people. It just feels like he's in a room, and he's either in a room, he's always in a room with one other person, and he's either in a room with this therapist or someone who he's, you know, trying to help therapeutically. And it just feels, the book feels like a big therapy session, but it just doesn't feel like the world's lived in, which is weird because he's in the Marvel universe. So you would imagine that it would, you know, and the thing is, like last issue had Tigra like visit, and that was a lot better, but at the same time that's still just a one-on-one. It just don't feel like there's I mean, a lot of it takes place at night, and again, I think there's a reason for that, and we're about to get there. But it's just surprising the lack of.
I haven't been reading the current Moon Knight, but is it anything like the Warren Ellis run from a while ago, where there was like the first 6 issues were almost completely standalone and could be like interchangeable, but then after that, like once it changed creative teams, then it kind of had a story continuing through it.
Yeah, I don't think it is. The thing is, I think you bring up a really good point there. See, with the Warren Ellis run, when he was you know, going about in there, like I remember one of the first scenes in the first issue is like a crime scene, and there's like police officers everywhere, and he's talking to them as Mr. Knight. And again, that's kind of a good example of what I mean. Like that scene's lived in. There's characters walking about. It's not just an empty canvas, you know. And for me, like the series so far, it's been really good, but there's just something feels off. And I think this issue was the one I realized. I was like, this feels really empty. Like it feels like there's maybe 3 characters live in this city, 4 characters. And there's no, like, as you say, like that Mr. Knight kind of going in and, you know, meeting police officers or this and that. Like there's a plethora of characters, but they're always kind of one-on-one. There's never like, never many times there's a group of them.
Man, I love that Warren Ellis run though. Like I will reread that like once a year or so. Like it's just a work of art to me.
It is. It is. I agree. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And I would have loved to have seen it had he continued it. But I think Marvel had some problems with him. I'm pretty sure in the back of issue 6, they actually had a dig at him. But yeah, like I agree. I think it's absolutely masterful. And the fact that, as you say, you can change these issues around and they still make sense. And yet they all, but that's what I mean as well. Like they all give you something. It's not just you're sitting there reading something. It's giving you like some meat to the bone, you know?
I really like the issue that was done from different camera perspectives. Like each panel was a different video recording or a different like photo capture.
Yeah. The one I really liked was when he was I think it was the mayor's daughter was in a building and he's just walking his way up, kicking ass. And it was literally just one big action scene. But like it reminded me of The Raid, you know, the Asian cinema movie. Like it just was it was like Dread as well. It was just like a full-on action. And normally you would think, you know, it's just all action. There's not much else there. But it looked so awesome, and it was just like a perfect balance between the writer and artist.
And you know what else is a really good point, or a really good issue to play off a point that you made about like the world building and everything feeling kind of like busy and populated and everything, is the issue where the assassin was picking off all the different people. And every time somebody died, that panel was just blank on following pages until it was just a whole white page. Or that might have been after the Warren Ellis run. Was that during Brian Wood and Greg Smallwood?
No, I think it would be. I think it was Warren Ellis's.
Okay,
I think it was.
I can't remember because man, the run that came after it was great too. I just I can't remember when the creative teams keep changing, but like because even Jeff Lemire wrote it for a little while too, and like it was pretty consistently good that whole run.
Yeah, I mean, like I think Moon Knight, like crazily enough, is one of the most consistently well written characters. Like the thing is, this run as well. I don't think it's bad by any means, and I don't mean to come across like I hate it. I don't. I really like it. There's just some, as I say, that was my problem with that. I felt was slightly off about it. But like, yeah, like as you're saying, I forgot about that issue. But as you say, like when the characters were dying and then their panel would disappear, and it was just slowly becoming more of a blank page. That's genius. And again, that also is like a really good way of filling the world because you were following 6 different people, you know. But yeah, so like that's Moon Knight. Like I'm still gonna pick up and stuff. It's ace. I'm hoping that we're kind of coming to a point where something big will happen, or you know, just things will click a bit more. And I'm hoping with some of the plot points teased that will happen.
I just hope that like the run lasts longer because of the show like hype, because it's not supposed to come out until next year. So I'm kind of hoping that they're like gearing this book towards like building up some sort of anticipation or like hoping to bank on the show coming out. Because I feel like most of Moon Knight's runs, like this decade, or I guess last decade, I don't know, the past like 10 or so years, they haven't really been very long. Like how you were talking about like Warren Ellis and then Lemire, and then Brian Wood, you said, did runs. Like, I don't think any of them were longer than 12 issues. I want to say Ellis's was only 6.
Yep, that's right. Ellis's was only 6.
And I think I read the one trade. That's actually the only Moon Knight book I've ever read. Which, shame on me, because I try to act like I'm a big Moon Knight fan, but I just end up sounding like a fraud, even though I do like the character. But yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't, like you said, the character is written very well, but I feel like he doesn't get the same kind of credit for it like Daredevil does, because there's no consistency in terms of, like, Daredevil's been ongoing for the last like 40 plus years or whatever. Moon Knight's had 5 or 6 different ongoings in the last like 20. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing with Daredevil is it's always really long runs that the creative team has. Like, Mark Waid has had 2 really long runs on it, actually. Ed Brubaker had a sizable one. Charles C. Oles' run was long. And Chip Zdarsky has been on it for a while now too. I think like we're in the 30 to 40 issue ballpark with that one. Mm-hmm. And like that's been a great series as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing is, you know, to go back to what you said earlier, Don, about like the Disney Plus show, I actually think this series it's come at a right time. Like, the design of it, like, what I loved was the first issue is basically like a recap of Moon Knight's history, but through a therapy session. It kind of tells you everything you need to know about the character in every way. It's pretty genius. If someone was not aware of Moon Knight and saw like the teaser or watched the show and were like, oh cool, I'd like to read Moon Knight, I actually think this would be a great jumping on point. I think it'd be a really good and accessible place. Like, my problems are more nitpicky in the sense that, as someone like has read comics for a while, like, that's what I'm looking for. I feel like that's missing. But as someone jumping into comics, they won't look at that. They'll see like a really good, you know, action-packed Moon Knight story that does give a good summary of the character and why he's so popular. The funny thing is, bringing up in regards to Daredevil, I think Daredevil is just a really hard character to not write well. I think Daredevil, I always say Daredevil and Green Lantern, they're the 2 characters that are a nightmare to write badly, because they're both built on so much emotion. They're both like men without fear. So you have to, like, fear is emotion. So you have to write them rather than giving the plot first. You kind of have to think about what the character goes through first. So it means when you read them, they feel more fully realized, you know? Whereas like Superman, the idea of him is like, you know, he's this big guy, strong. He can't really feel fear. Like, he can, but people struggle to kind of show that. So it means that, you know, it's normally gimmicks around him. It's normally plot is the main point. Whereas with Daredevil and Green Lantern, there's always, like, Jeff Johns was built heavily around Green Lantern's father and dying in a jet, and, you know, like Blackest Night, the fears of like all the people that have died in his life. There's all that stuff. And then Daredevil is like built off of, like, you know, obviously like Karen Page stuff, and like the amount of women in his life he's had that have died, and, you know, like there's so much emotion there that he always goes through. I mean, he always becomes a bum at some point in every run because he's so depressed. Like, you know, like Daredevil's just a character built differently, and I think if you're a writer coming onto it,
one thing I find interesting about Daredevil too is his Catholicism and how religious he actually is, and how he's often seen like going to confession, and you see him in church, and there's a whole lot of symbolism with that too. And you don't really get that side of a superhero's life very often, kind of thing. And I'm not a religious person at all. It's just not for me, but I still find it a really interesting aspect of the character.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool point as well, because, like, see, me personally, I used to be religious when I was growing up. I'm not anymore. But I think that that's really cool, because normally you would think, oh, a character's religious, they're going to be holier than thou, and they're going to be like a goody, you know, like Ned Flanders or something, you know? Whereas Daredevil's the opposite. If anything, it messes him up even more.
Yeah, Matt Murdock is far from that.
Yeah, he's got all these layers to it, you know, and I think it's really refreshing, because obviously nowadays in particular, people tend to, if they have an opinion about religion, it's quite extreme. So I kind of like how Daredevil kind of maneuvers this and always has, as you said, this religious background where, you know, he's bringing up his sins and stuff and what he's done during the week, but he'll go and just, you know, still be a lawyer, still live an everyday life, but he's not perfect. You know, I just think it's a really cool dynamic. So I'd agree with you on that. So yeah, on that tangent, the next issue I have this week is The Nice House on the Lake, issue 6. And that's a Tinian book that feels like a Tinian book. And at this point in time, I'm almost at the point where I'm going to say, yeah, it's a trade as well. It's kind of frustrating a wee bit reading it monthly, because I feel like we've gotten the same reveals for 2 months in a row, but like we got extra reveals, but they're so small that it's not really substantial, but it probably read better in a trade. The mystery of it is great, and I have no clue where it's going, and it is really good, but I'm kind of I feel like we're going circles a bit. Also, Tinian does this thing, right, where there's different characters in the book. I think it's like 12 characters. And in the first issue, he does a good job of breaking them all down by giving them all little like synopsis here and there about who they are and what they're doing. But then I feel like he's a point in the last like 2-3 issues, they've not been characterized as well. And I'm getting a bit confused about like who's who. And there's a lot of people in this, and there's a lot going on. And then some people share the same opinion. And I'm like, wait, is that this person or that person? I have to go back to the previous issues and go, oh, it's the musician, or it's the scientist, you know, and it can be a bit confusing. I think though, like, I believe that he's writing 12 issues and then he's taking a break for a while. I'm curious to see where it goes, and like if it ends on a cliffhanger, if it continues, or if this is like a season 1 or not, whatnot. I don't think they've really said what it is. But I think if you got like a book of all 12 issues, the way it's going right now, I can imagine it being very satisfying and very fun, because it's got a really good mystery behind it. And I don't know, but I feel like he may be layering answers in the book without you realizing it. So I think it may be the sort of book that when you go back and reread it, you'll see a lot more. Art-wise in particular, I feel like there's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of symbols show up, but also there's like things in the background that you don't really notice that you do in a couple issues later. And I think that is also like another case for maybe in a reread, you'll notice things more, and stuff that was introduced earlier on will play a bigger part down the line. I think one thing that I can definitely give it is the dialogue is on point. I think although there's so many characters that kind of go missing, I think when you do get a character standing out, the dialogue is really awesome, because it's quite like a horrific situation they're in. I don't know if either of you, if you read any of it.
I have not. I've heard really good things, but because I'm typically a trade waiter, I opted not to jump on this book. I don't even know that I had heard about it until issue 1 had come out, to be honest with you.
I also haven't read it yet either. I'm slowly, no, not really slowly anymore, but I'm gradually turning into a trade reader as well. So I think that I'm going to pick that up once it's collected. I just am starting to find that the reading experience is just so much more satisfying to have the whole story there that I can like read at my own pace and not have to wait a month between.
It's an interesting topic, because I've always heavily defended like the single issue reading format, but there are, as I've said now, there's a lot of series that seem to be coming out that are almost built for that trades. The thing is I've said in previous videos, DC do a lot of mini series right now. I don't even think some of them are like trades work. Like they'll read well as a trade, but I think they work really well as single issues. But there's these like specific series that seem built for like 12 issues now, and they're designed more to read as a whole. You know, I think that like Nice House on the Lake, for instance, feels like a Netflix show. It feels like you should be binging it. It doesn't feel like something you would wait weekly. You know,
right? I feel like this is the part where if Taylor from Taylor Talks Comics was here, he would say, so it was referencing something from like the 80s or whatever, where like each single issue was basically its own story. I definitely feel like this conversation would have made him throw that in there. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that argument is just less and less appealing to me as my like reading habits change and life goes on, kind of thing. Because no, not every comic should be able to be read as somebody's first comic. I kind of disagree with that now. Why
Mhm.
would somebody like you don't jump halfway into a TV series anymore? Like The Simpsons, you once would watch like weekly, and there wouldn't be any like carryover from episode to episode. You could watch them in any order, kind of thing, right? But not all TV shows are like that, and not all comics are like that either, right?
Mhm.
yeah, no, definitely not.
Like you wouldn't just jump into Dexter halfway through season 3.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. I've never seen any of it. I'm not going to watch the season that just started airing.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly.
I think the interesting thing is I don't think it's a bad idea. Like I think that it can still be done, but I don't think writers are built that way nowadays. Like we're talking just no longer about Warren Ellis and how you could read his single issues of his Moon Knight. Like you didn't need to read the whole thing and I think that each issue would be like a good jumping on point. And each issue was pretty self-contained. But I think in general now, because of like I actually think it's because comic books get picked up so much for TV now that people are no longer thinking about that style of format and they're thinking, how do I tell a story over a period of time that could be like almost TV episodes?
they're
You know?
on that Mark Miller strategy.
They're on that, yeah. And the funny
Yeah.
thing about that guy is that all of his shows are like failed. You know,
Yeah,
like the guy builds for these Netflix shows and these movies, and yet no one can make them. And when they do, they don't even like Kingsman. Like I don't even actually Kingsman. He wrote that first book with Matthew Vaughn, and the second movie was Matthew Vaughn itself, and it didn't do as well as the first one. And then you look at like Jupiter's
Legacy.
Legacy. I get mixed up between that and Ascending. So Legacy, like that book as well, like that's designed for a series, but then when you watch it, it's like it wasn't good.
I still
You know?
didn't watch. Not to like get super off topic, but like I still didn't watch it, and I'm curious to watch it. But knowing that it's already canceled, like a week after the show came out, kind of makes me.
I always remember Low Heat, Cupcake Low Heat was sold me. It was like, oh, the end of the first episode was like Justice League versus Darkseid. It's awesome. And I was like, cool, you sold me. And I went and watched it. I was like, what a heap of shite. Like it was just like what was it? Like, you know, like the Arrow shows, like Arrow Flash and stuff. They got a hard time for like CGI and that, but I'm always like, you know what? A for effort. They tried. They clearly don't have the budget. But this thing, like, I thought it just looked hokey and it just didn't look right. And I was yeah, I'm not sold.
It's that bad, like the effects and all that stuff, because it looked like okay in the trailers.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Like, probably Arrowverse stuff is still like way worse than it, but they don't have nearly the money that Netflix has. And I just feel like, again, like I remember seeing some really bad scenes of Flash, and I'd be like, ooh, but I'd be like, hey, you know, I get to see Flash save like 100 people in a train, so I can kind of let it slide. But this, I remember like, watching the scene, I was just like, holy hell! But it wasn't just like it wasn't composited right. Like the way it was edited, it didn't look right, it didn't feel right. It just felt like not even B movie, it felt like D movie. Like it just didn't look right. And I instantly was just put off it. I couldn't. I thought my TV was gonna get ill, you know. So I was just like, I thought I'll put my TV out its misery, you know, and just give it a break, you know. Like, and the same token, you got like Netflix where they do like Daredevil and stuff, and that's awesome. That looks awesome action wise. But this thing, yeah, they try to go throw the full hog at it, and it didn't look right. It was very odd. But yeah, on that tangent, I'll go on my next book. So the next one is Aquaman the Becoming 3. Another good book. This surprised me. Like, I actually didn't pick this up initially. It was my partner's bought the first issue, and then I read it, and she was gonna drop it just because she has a lot. But I read it and was like, damn, this is good. Why are you dropping this, you nutter? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, damn it, now I have to spend money on it, you know? But yeah, like it's good fun, you know. it follows Jackson Hyde, the other Aquaman, and I've just found out they announced the other day that they're doing the guy that writes this. He's about to this is a 6-issue miniseries, so this is issue 3. When that's done, he's about to do an Aquaman series with Aquaman and this Aquaman. I don't know why they feel that everyone like can have their own series, but Aquaman needs to be in with another Aquaman. But yeah, like it's great. Like it's actually a lot more brutal than I thought. And some of the art, like I haven't really shown art tonight, but some of the art, like I was deeply surprised by. What's really cool is I don't think I have the issue on me. What I really enjoyed is the last page of issue 2 was this character Jackson Hyde. He's on a boat. It was like a single page. He's on a boat and he's like bleeding out. And then like this issue starts with like the people who are after him, and it's the I don't have the issue on me to show you, but like that's the panel. So like actually it's just here. Hold on. So if you look at this, right? So the last page of this second issue. Oh, it's not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. But like, look, it's like that, right? And he's on it, right? But then the first page is the same. Oh, upside down. Is the same panel page, but like he's gone now and it's morning. And I was like, cool, that's a really cool way of continuing a series. It feels like it flows. It feels like you could just like cut and it's like they're there, like where the hell is he? Like he's too fast for you, you know? But yeah, like it's a really fun series. I'm very excited for where it's going. The same writer that's doing this is doing the Green Arrow and Aquaman series. So there seems to be this guy is heavy on Aquaman right now. And this book surprisingly had a lot of Mira as well, which kind of that I didn't think that was going to happen. So it seems to be, and that in Black Manta, I noticed they've now got the banner Prelude to Aquaman at the top. So this and Black Manta are all building towards what they're going to do with Aquaman. Again, it kind of shows that I feel like DC have their kind of shit on point right now. It feels like these miniseries are all building up to, like how I was saying recently about Superman the Authority in Action Comics. All these things, they're all pieces of a puzzle and it's all building up, which is really awesome. Speaking of which, I'll go into it now, but like because like my next issue is Superman Son of Kal-El 5, and that as well, like that, like they all feel like they're building the pieces of a puzzle, and it's kind of satisfying to read and figure out where it all lies and where it's all going. And that Justice League Incarnate obviously is the next part of where the big story. So I feel like that will put everything in place in regards to a puzzle. But yeah, you know, that Aquaman book is really good. And this one is as well. Like, this is the big issue, the one that has the moment that has been much publicized. And I was ready to be offended. I was ready to tear it up. I was ready to be like, how dare they? How dare they do this? But it's a kiss. It was fine. It's like it's just a kiss. You know.
They're playing with my toys, damn it, and ruining my childhood.
Yeah, I mean, I love Superman. I didn't feel overly like angry because it's not Superman. Like it's his son. I still stand by it. I don't understand this, right? It's like if you made Superman gay, everyone would be like, fuck this show, like this series, fuck this. What the fuck are they doing, right? But then they say, oh, they should be making original characters. They should be making original characters gay. But then you take John Kent, who, okay, he's taken over as Superman. But he's an original character. He's only been around for like a few years. And I've said before, if you're going to make any character gay, it'd be him. He's been growing up and he's just hit an adult part of his life. If he's going to find out, it'd be now. It's pretty natural. And Superman's not gay. He's still on another planet fighting an evil bad guy. You know, like it's not. They're not ruining this thing. And I've said before, like the whole stakes thing as well. I'm enjoying the fact he could die. Like, yeah, you know, he could come back in like 5 months. I mean, he's not even dead yet, for fuck's sake. And we're talking like, you know, like I never know with the comics, with the comic book fandom, how, you know. It's like, oh, he's dead. He'll just be back in a couple months. Okay, but then you threaten to kill him, and you're like, oh, don't kill him. I want him around. You're like, okay, what do you want? I don't know.
I want to know one thing that I've never forgiven DC Comics for is when Damian Wayne died in Batman Incorporated. I was reading it monthly, and DC put out a press release to the news that this was happening. So I woke up and I checked CBC News first thing in the morning on that Wednesday, and it just said Robin dies in this week's issue of Batman, and I was just like, those motherfuckers.
Yeah, I can totally understand this, because it annoys me. Marvel do it all the time, and to be honest, they did it with Superman. They revealed this kiss before it happened. Obviously, Tom Taylor's come out and said it's because the press got a hold of it, and they didn't want it to come. They wanted an official announcement, so it didn't come out of context. But
so it's because EVS found out from somebody who he still talks to or works at DC, and then he leaked it to the media.
Yeah, it's a sorry state of affairs, I think, in comics right now, that we have to spoil things before they happen. Like, I know it's it's actually interesting, because you could draw a parallel with the whole Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, and it's like, oh, are they going to show Andrew? Are they going to show Toby? And I've seen people say, and I agree with them, like, if they are in it, it's almost insane not to, because you'll sell all the tickets if you put them in this trailer. But the same token, like, I want to go into the movie and not know. But I understand if they don't put them in there, then it's not going to sell as well. And it's like that catch-22, because just as a society now, we need to be told the spoilers to be excited. And I just find that crazy, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially with that point. Like, I don't want to know, because if in the movie it's supposed to be like a holy shit moment when they show up, if I know it's going to happen, then it's just going to be like a, oh, okay moment.
Yeah. Because the thing that bothers me about like trailers and stuff nowadays is like, when you watch them, when you're watching the movie itself, like last night in Soho, I did it. I was watching the movie itself, and then I was like, okay, but we haven't seen those shots in the trailer yet, so I know it's going to go in this direction, or I know this is something that's going to happen. And it really bothers me. And it's the same with comic books. When they come out and just outright, I always remember Age of Ultron, when they were bringing that out, and they were like, oh, Angela appears at the end of the last issue. I was like, well, okay. And then I read it, and I was like, that's the only thing worth a damn in that last issue. And you bloody spoiled it, and I've wasted money on a normal issue and a polybagged issue and an opened polybag. And I'm like, God fucking damn it, you got me. You know?
I was pulling that book as well. I didn't read it, and I still haven't to this date, but I think I still have that last issue in that polybag. And I was like, is this like a spoiler? Like, why is it bagged? Like, I didn't understand. I just accepted it and was like, oh.
There was a ton of different variants, and they didn't want you to know what variant you were getting, but then it's polybagged, so you're not gonna know if you don't open it. Like, it's just it was a weird thing.
I mean, that's kind of cool though, like to an extent.
Because I mean, like, I bought a standard issue, and then I bought a polybagged one and opened it up. No, actually, that's a lie. I didn't. I just bought a polybagged issue, and then I opened it up to read it, and I thought, fuck, I just opened this polybag, and I went back and bought another one. Because I was like, I have to have one in the polybag, you know? Power Rangers actually had a polybag issue like a couple of years ago, and I opened that bad boy up, and I was like, oh, shit. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just waited and got like a cheaper one on eBay or something. But I went and looked, couldn't find them, and if I could, it was extortionate prices. And I was like, I have missed the beat here. I feel betrayed. Just like, God damn it. So yeah,
that's funny. But yeah, I was actually to touch on the trailer thing one last time. It's funny that you brought that up, because I was actually talking about this yesterday with my friends. I haven't watched the trailer. I don't really care to talk about it, but one of my friends was like, well, everyone else is going to talk about it, or like, I want to talk about it, so like whatever. But it's just like, I don't like you. If you know that moment's going to happen, then like before it happens, you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm still waiting for this part, and I'm still waiting for this part, and it's like a background like distraction almost to what's actually going on.
Well, it's almost like bookmarks. You can trailers nowadays are designed so you can tell the rough structure of the movie. So I see it as like bookmarks. When you're watching the movie, you're like, okay, well, that's clearly the third act. Once you see that shot, you're like, okay, like we're there now. Like, you know, I think a movie like Endgame, at the very least, the bulk of the shots from that trailer were at the beginning of the movie. So I was like, cool. Some of them were even doctored. Seriously, we need to do that more. We need to like doctor the images way more so it doesn't spoil.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that they do that.
Yeah,
especially because like with Endgame, I feel like they made the right call by making it most of the beginning, because like you're not supposed to know whether or not they get everyone back.
Yeah.
Are we talking details from the Spider-Man trailer or no? Because I
I'd
want to
rather
say
not.
something. Okay.
I'd rather not. I didn't watch it, and I'm trying to.
We could do a video
avoid-
on that at some point.
There you go.
We could do a video on that at some point.
Okay.
I have some
It's
things
not a
to
bad
say
idea.
about that.
But yeah,
things
so
to
what's
say.
next?
Yeah, I've only got 2 left. Blue and Gold. That's Dan Jurgens and Ryan Sook. Yeah, like I love this book. This was very nearly pick of the week for me. It's built so heavily off of Justice League International. I'm so glad the Booster and Blue Beetle are getting like some limelight again, because like for years it just seemed they vanished, and they're characters that are consistently overlooked, and it really annoys me because, you know, for characters that have never really progressed, like they've never really gotten better or worse, they're just so damn fun to read. Like this one, they're kind of like starting a business and stuff, and like it's almost like a heroes for hire, and I was like, you know, it's been there, done that. When you see how they're doing it and like what they're appealing, and like, yeah, it's like, okay, this is very Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. Like, this is awesome. This is an awesome take on it, you know. And like this issue is entirely one interview about what their new business venture, right? But the one interview, like, so their agent's like, oh, we're gonna give them an interview so they can like promote this and they will look good on TV and stuff. And they're two of them are really good talkers, so you would think they do good at that. But the whole issue is basically one story, and it's a flashback, but they both have different points of view on it, and they argue with each other, and it's genius. And I'm not gonna say like what goes on in it and stuff, but it's absolutely genius, and it made me laugh so many times. Because Dan Jurgens has done this thing as well, because of the way the world is now with like social media and stuff. He's done like tags, so it'll be like, you know, just like if Ladies Man 217 will come up and be like, I love Booster, and then someone will be like, I love, like, and then they'll be like, Booster speaking shit, and they'll be like, no, Blue Beetle's speaking shit, and you'll see like the internet comments underneath, and it's just like, it's really fun, and it's really well done. And Dan Jurgens obviously was the one that made Booster Gold, and it's crazy to think that guy's still writing him, and yeah, he just writes him so well. But yeah, like the two of them, it's on point. We're on 4 of 8, and we're halfway. I hope that when this is done, they've got something else. It doesn't, although it's halfway, it feels like it's still at the start. So I have a feeling that maybe by 6 they'll announce like what the next part of this story is and where they're going. I'm praying maybe a Justice League International again. That would just change the game for me. I love that team, and I love the comedy aspect of it. But that's what I'm hoping for. But that is a high recommend.
I'm a little disappointed that I don't think I knew about the book early enough, so I missed like the first 2 issues, I think. And by the time we started like doing this, where I was going to the shops like regularly, I think it was like on issue 3, and I was just like, fuck, like I missed out. But the way you're talking about it, I might just go buy the back issues like digitally or something. Yeah, because it's a book that I want to read, and it's another one of those like voting with my money situations. How you're saying like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle don't get a whole lot of love. Yeah. So like, if I buy the book, maybe DC will realize, hey, we should feature these guys more often.
Yeah, because the thing is like the book itself is not like, I think it is really accessible. If you've never read them before, I think this series is a perfect start to like figure them out. 2, you know, it's so weird. As I've said, these characters are so set in their ways, and yet they're just so much damn fun to read. Like they just never get bored of their antics or their stupidity or their lovableness, because they are heroes at the end of the day, and they are. But like Booster in particular is very happy to make a quick buck, and it's just so funny to read. And the fact that like this issue is just around one interview, and they can hold it through that, it's just brilliant. It just works so well, and it's testament to the characters and Dan Jurgens, the writer, that to this day they're still as entertaining to read as they were all the way back when Justice League International was on the go. So I highly recommend that. That would have been pick of the week. But Dan won't be surprised to see. And my last issue and my pick of the week was Power Rangers. Shit, this was good. Shit, this was good. Fuck. I can't believe so many people sit on that series, like they don't read it. There's like, right, so we're in the Altarian War right now, right? And fuck, like it just
it's officially started, correct? Like it's no longer like the road to or whatever.
So like there's two. The last one I reviewed, which I think was last week, that's Mighty Morphin, and as I said, that's the point of view of the Power Rangers, like the ones we know from the TV show. This one, Power Rangers, the series, the titles are stupid. That's the biggest con I'll give it. But this follows the Omega Rangers, which is a different team, and they're like the space team. But they went through like a really cool journey in the last few issues, and I was like, how are they going to be part of this? Well, goddamn, they were like, it's just like it's this big war going on. It's really excellent. The Power Rangers are kind of like trying to keep it together. It's so hard to talk about because of spoilers, because there's so much going on in it. And then out of nowhere, these guys show up as like they bring the rain. They come in as the backup, and it's just amazing. Yeah, it's just amazing. And like the art, like see if I can. There was a page. Yeah, look at. See if I can show this. It's so like it's so cool, you know. And yeah, like it's excellent. It's just. I can't sing its praises enough. You know, and yeah, like it's on point. It's so annoying. It's such a difficult series to discuss because there's just so much going on. You risk saying anything that could spoil it. But it was by far the best this week. It's just everything I wanted. Teasing what was going to happen in the future. Giving those, like, they've built up this current enemy, like, there's like 3 different enemies, but they've built all these enemies up. They're like, they're unstoppable. And I don't know how they're going to beat them in that. And that's crazy because like a year ago, the Omega Rangers, the guys that this series is following, I'd be like, no one could take them. You know, they were like swaggering around, like, you know, getting in people's faces, like, what the fuck are you going to do about it? You know, I was like, I like these guys. You know, I'm liking the intensity. I'm liking the anger, you know. And there was some really cool panels of that. But right now they're like out their depths. And I'm like, fuck. The Conor McGregors of the Power Ranger world are out of their depth. Fuck. You know? So it's like really exciting. And like, yeah, like Ryan Parrott still just consistently on point. He just knows. I don't know how he does it. Because there's definitely points where I've thought, like, if I was to like write a Power Ranger series, I'd be like, yeah, I think I could do like this. I could do that. I don't know how I would follow that. I don't know how anyone follows that. If Boom lose Parrott as writer, I don't know who follows up because he carries like 7 different plot points whilst building up 7 more. And yet he still has time for character. He still has time for epic stakes. And he has like this, you know, TV show-esque series. And then he has this absolutely batshit space series going on, and you're just like, how's this guy doing it? And then just to bring up quickly, the fact that it was announced the other day that he's working with Kyle Higgins on like that Radiant Black crossover. My God, like, are you trying to kill? Like, that should have killed the internet. I swear to God, that didn't kill the internet enough.
And
I think
people don't know what they're missing. Apparently,
they don't know what they're missing. They really don't. If they were reading all this stuff and they looked at that announcement, they would have had a heart attack because I certainly did, you know.
Yeah, you were borderline inconsolable that day.
I was damn near crying. I was like, "This is beautiful. This is goddamn beautiful." I spent years with nothing. No, this tokusatsu genre. I spent years with nothing, and like as Taylor rightly pointed out, Kyle Higgins. Yeah, you have to absolutely give it to him that he's like revived this genre with Power Rangers. But the fact he's done this and it's just led to this boom. And now, like, as I've said, the Avengers of tokusatsu writers and artists are coming together to do this big sort of fucking okay, it's an oversized crossover, but I'm like, Jesus, this is just too much. Because the thing is, they have the writer that's doing Ultraman as well for Marvel. And I'm just like, my God, you know, leave them, you know, they're not like messing around. Like, you know, other people are probably like, oh, I'd like that. I'd like them for this. And the Boom Image right now, we're like, no, they all come in here for our universe, you know? And yeah, I can't sing its praises enough. So yeah, Power Rangers, my pick of the week. I've spoken a lot, so on you go.
Oh, good. That's okay. I say since I have nothing new from this week. You are going to be the bulk of this conversation. But just to quickly go over what I did get, since I bought stuff for the sake of buying it, but also since I didn't have to buy new books, I had money left over to buy the stuff that was in my box that's been sitting there for like a couple months. So first, I've got 3 issues of Reptile, which I still have yet to read. That was issue 1. This one's issue 2. I think this cover's pretty cool. And then, so I accidentally bought issue 3, which was in another video that I did. And then this is issue 4, which is also a pretty cool cover. To be honest, I don't even know who's writing this book. Again, I'm just Terry Bloss. There's probably a better way to pronounce that. But
That looked like a PG Jeff Lemire Animal Man cover.
honestly, yeah. And there's like a lot of dinosaur shit going on in here. But it's pretty cool.
His facial expression is intense.
Very, yeah. And then I've got 2 other. Yeah, I was all over the place with this stuff. I guess the other week when I showed off Gamma Flight, that was issue 4, because I have 3 here, and then issue 5, which is the finale. It says right there, epic final fight with the Abomination. So this is another one of those 5-issue Marvel miniseries that they've been doing, which I'm totally fine with. I didn't know how long I was going to end up committing to that title. But yeah, that's one less thing that I don't have to worry about.
Do you know if that was meant to be a miniseries or if that's just like they're canceling early?
Honestly, I don't know, but because Marvel has been doing so many 5-issue miniseries, I feel like it's not a coincidence that this one is also 5 issues.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they are like announcing that it's essentially the finale on the cover makes me think that it probably was designed that way intentionally.
I don't think that little logo is big enough. It should be all over the cover, like big epic finale. I needed to blow my face off. Otherwise, what's the point?
I mean, yeah, it did. When I looked at the cover initially, it did take me a minute to notice it.
Yeah, you're like, oh, big epic finale. Oh, nice.
But
no, you want to be like, ah, it's a big epic finale.
I do think that the cover is pretty cool, though, overall, and I'm glad that like this part of it doesn't take away too much from the rest of it. And then
it's almost like a 90s, early 2000s kind of vibe to it. In a way.
It does feel that way. And like even with the third cover, I mean, it looks like Abomination is on this one as well. But yeah, some of it definitely has like some like moderately classic. I don't really want to call like early 2000s or like 90s classic because that just doesn't sit right with me. But it definitely gives off some of those like vibes or whatever. And then I also got an issue of Turtles. This one's 120. I forget which one I showed off the last time that I bought like some random stuff. And then the last thing that I got is issue 4 of The Last Ronin, which we were just talking about, Hess. I honestly, God, cannot remember if I have 2 and 3. I have to go through like my old purchases because I was living out of state. There was a long time where I wasn't consistently going, so like I don't know what they held for me and what they didn't, and like that sort of thing. So I got to make sure that I have 2 and 3. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the finale of that series, and I haven't read any of it yet because of the delays between each issue. So now that the finale is like kind of approaching, I'm ready to read like all 4 and then wait for the big finale. And that is all I got. So very unexciting week because of the diamond delays and everything getting messed up. My shop did not have it and they told me to check back on Friday. So I might show off what I got real quick next week. That's what's supposed to come out this week. So with that said, Hess, we saved the best for last because you're the new member, if you want to call it that. So why don't you show us what you got?
Yeah, sure thing. So my pull list, admittedly, is pretty thin these days. I still order a lot of like hardcover collections and omnibus and stuff like that. But anyway, I got 3 this week.
Hey, never be afraid of showing them off, because by God, Taylor shows those off.
Oh, absolutely. I have one actually that I did pick up that I kind of want to talk about in a second, but it won't be very in depth. But anyway, I got Batman 117, Tynion's last issue, as we kind of already discussed anyway, so we don't really need to go down that rabbit hole.
Do you have
again.
any further thoughts of it, though? Is there anything I
No,
didn't bring
I
up?
haven't actually read this one yet. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But I mean, I've been pretty indifferent to most of Tynion's run so far. I'm not really expecting the finale of it to blow me away,
So
especially
you're
with
saying,
how
saying
thin
the
it
fact
is
that
too.
the Art Cloud is not a surprise to you, as Connor put it?
No, that was no spoiler, really. Yeah, but even just flipping through, like for somebody's last issue on a series like Batman, like that is awfully thin. There's not a lot of content there. So
yeah, again, I expect like a big explosive, like like you got in the Gamma Flight. Why are we getting that in Gamma Flight and not on Batman?
yeah,
What the hell's going on here?
I kind of just feel like Tynion was never into it in the first place. I don't think he really had planned to write Batman for any amount of time, and mostly did what he wanted to do on Detective Comics, probably. And I feel like DC rushed to end Tom King's run. They just threw Tynion on it, and he probably didn't really want to pick up those pieces.
So
is probably the best way I could put it.
Was Tynion on Detective Comics for like an extended period before he took over Batman?
Yeah. And that was the team book that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that was before. Yeah, that was during Tom King's Batman, actually, that was going on. Yeah.
The interesting thing is, like, he wrote Justice League Dark before he did Batman. And I remember reading that his run on that is really good. But he wanted to stay on that whilst writing Batman, and that was the plan. And then DC asked him to do like bi-monthly Batman books, and he was like, holy hell, if I'm doing that, I can't do Justice League Dark as well. So he had to leave Justice League Dark, but he didn't want to. And I think maybe the whole thing, because he was really good on Justice League Dark, and you could tell he was having fun with that. And as you say, Hess, sometimes it feels like I feel some of the characters, but sometimes I feel like he wasn't quite sure like if he wanted to be there or not.
Yeah, like I don't feel like this series has taken any big risks or done anything different with the characters, and yeah, it's just introduced a lot of new material as well too that I don't think we're ever really going to see much of again. But like Punchline, that whole thing, people were making a huge deal about that, but whatever. Anyway,
it's interesting. It's interesting that he's like doing great, because I was going to say like, oh well, maybe like he doesn't understand Batman or whatever, but if he was doing Detective Comics already, he either didn't have like more Batman stories in mind, or he really was just like bitter about the Justice League Dark situation, and like not so much like took it out, but it just kind of like, I don't know, like maybe like the energy or life or whatever was like kind of drained from him because of that situation, so he didn't really give it his all.
The thing that baffles
out of his sails, so to speak.
Yeah. The thing that really baffles me about this whole situation, I forgot to mention earlier, is he was writing that Joker run. And I only read the first few issues, but it's supposed to be really good. But from what I believe, Tynion was supposed to be, so he's writing Batman, and then Joker was basically about what Joker's doing whilst he's away preparing for his next big thing with Batman. And it would all kind of come together in the end again, and like his big return. But now we're never going to get that. So does that mean that the Joker series is absolutely pointless now? Like
probably.
Yeah.
They're going to reboot everything in 3 to 5 years anyway, so
probably.
Yeah, then my next book that I got is The Walking Dead Deluxe, the color reprints that have been coming out bi-weekly. I haven't read this one yet either. I'm a little bit behind on The Walking Dead. I mean, I've read the whole thing a couple of times before anyway, in black and white during the original run and the compendiums as well. So, I mean, I'm not in a rush to go back to it. I'm really enjoying the colored comics. But it's not like it's new material to me or anything, right? So,
right. What issue did you say it was? Sorry.
That's number 27.
27. So I read the book in compendium format for the first, I don't know, like half of the series roughly. Without spoiling anything, if you're able to, where exactly is issue 27 or 26, since you didn't read this one yet?
Yeah, it's all the craziness is going down with the prison, and I'm trying to remember exactly where, because I'm a little bit behind on it right now too, so I can't remember exactly where issue 27 actually picks up at, but the last part I had been at was they had met Michonne and were kind of holed up in the prison. So I don't think they're at the governor's stuff yet.
Yeah. I think, because I do think she showed up first, but I say I don't want to dive into it in case anybody is reading this for the first time in color, which I'm a little envious of, but like I don't think the color is completely necessary, so like I'm not too upset about it.
No, I agree. I actually really like black and white comics. It just really reminds me of like the old newspaper print kind of thing. Like every day my dad would come home with the paper in the morning and I would always just like steal the comics out of the back page kind of thing, right? Sunday mornings he got them in color, which is really cool. So yeah, black and white comics kind of hold a special place in my heart to me in a way. But that being said, I am enjoying the color take on The Walking Dead a lot. I'm gonna keep collecting it too. I actually would like to have all 193 issues of the colored editions, because I started The Walking Dead, like I started collecting it late. I started collecting it around issue 90 or something like that, and ended up selling most of my single issues. And I have it all in compendium format now on my shelf, which that whole thing looks great together. So if they ever release like colored compendiums, which they probably will, or some kind of collection, I may triple dip. We'll see. But anyway, that brings me to my last one, and it's my pick of the week, and that is Chicken Devil #2.
Nice. Wait,
Yeah.
Connor, did you not get it, or did you?
I read the first. I forgot. I read it. I read the first one digitally. My store does not get them in. Like, you didn't get the first one, didn't get this one, so I completely forgot.
Gotcha.
I do plan on reading it digitally, but I forgot.
I also plan on reading it digitally. You can check our roundtable Zoom on the first issue. All three of us are in on it. We all really liked it. I'm excited to read the second one. I feel like it kept getting delayed. But now it's finally out, so I'm probably going to read it after we are done here.
Yeah, so I won't spoil anything about it, but I will give some thoughts. Everything that I said about the first issue kind of still just carries over on. Like, the momentum doesn't really let up. It starts off with a flashback that's just a couple pages, which kind of just puts into perspective what kind of life, what's his name, Mitchell has. Is it Mitchell or Michael? I can't remember. I think it was Mitchell.
I don't remember.
I think it's Mitchell.
Yeah.
Anyway, you could have told me it was fucking Luke, and I would have been like, yeah, sure, that sounds right.
You kind of get a picture of what his upbringing in his family life was kind of like, and then it dives right back into all the craziness of what's going on with his family dying and the fallout from that. It picks up right where he shot the guy in the locker room.
Interesting.
Yeah,
there's no time jump.
Exactly. There's no time jump.
See, and I touched on that in our other Zoom. Like I said, I was kind of hoping that it basically just picks up right from there, like whatever the next panel would have been, if it was like 4 pages longer. And you're telling me that it did, so.
Yeah, exactly. Right there.
That's awesome.
I had to go back. I couldn't remember if a little bit of the flashback to his family life was first, but no, it does pick up right where it left off.
That cover looks sweet as well. I can imagine walking into a store and actually seeing that. It would be like, because that was one of our biggest compliments of the first one. Like, that cover just stands out, and that one's the same.
Yeah, like, this comic knows it's good and just has no business knowing that it knows it's that good.
That's awesome.
That's so good.
Yeah, and that wraps up my my 3 pickups this week. Oh, actually, I did want to quickly show off the other one that I picked up as well. Was the Ed Brubaker Destroy All Monsters, the Reckless series. It's the 3rd book, which crime drama is probably my favorite genre when it comes to comics and graphic novels. So I'm excited to read this.
So I know you already told everyone where you live, but why don't you show off the inside of that book?
Yeah, so it's got Ed Brubaker and Sean Murphy's, or not Sean Murphy, Sean Phillips' signatures on the inside cover, which was a pretty cool surprise.
How did you get that?
I think shops just got a handful of them.
Did you know that when you bought it?
No, my the guy working at my LCS just kind of pointed that out when I was buying it, and I was like, "Oh, that's an awesome surprise."
Pretty cool. I hope no one steals it from you. Wink, wink.
No, some of you may have a long drive up to Halifax to get it.
Well, yeah.
That was a very nice and reserved response. I would have been like, "What the shit? Are you telling me that's signed?"
Yeah, I would have
You're
lost
not asking for more.
I would have been in complete disbelief, and I was just like, "Wait, you knew that this was signed when you handed it to me and charged me cover? Like what?"
Yeah, here we are. Comics marketing is a weird thing.
So you said that was your last one, but did you say that there was an omnibus that you wanted to discuss, or was that
no? That was the book that I wanted to.
Oh, okay,
wanted to show. Yeah, no. I had pre-ordered Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four, and I think Captain America Lives is the fourth Ed Brubaker book, but those have been delayed until January, I think, possibly later. I can't remember.
Delays left and right. I don't know what's going on.
Which, to be totally honest, with the prices that Canadian books are, paying cover price for those omnibus books just isn't really that economically feasible right now. So I'm okay with that being pushed off till January.
I pre-ordered those two as well, and I'm not going to complain if they're a little delayed either.
Yeah, it's not a cheap hobby.
Especially this end of the year, like there's a ton of omnibuses coming out, and it's a bit like if they all came out at once, it would break me. So I'm glad there's delays.
Yeah, that's Ultimate Spider-Man omnibus that's coming out is looking mighty tempting. That wasn't in the budget, but
I actually pre-ordered that. I actually pre-ordered that, but I canceled because there's other books coming out that I don't own, and I own that entire run in trade paperbacks and single issue UK editions.
No way. I've only read it digitally. It's one that I would really like to revisit and go read back because it's probably my favorite thing that Brian Bendis has ever done. And I just remember the first time that I read it. I was kind of getting back into comics. I hadn't been reading them for a very long time. And came across Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man and was like, okay, this is getting a lot of like hype and the good things being said about it, so I'll give it a shot. And yeah, I was sucked right into it. It was awesome.
100%. It's one of the best runs ever in the big two.
It did get a little rocky and weird towards the end.
Yeah, I think when Stuart Immonen left, it got it was like diluted a bit. It didn't feel right.
Yeah, and the Ultimate Universe got destroyed in a couple of other events too, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
There was one involving the X-Men. I seem to remember. Man, it's been a long time since I've read that.
The Ultimatum.
Ultimatum, yes, that's what it was.
Oh my god, the most hardcore event of all time.
Yes. Man, I should just revisit the whole Ultimate Universe. It's been a long time since I've picked that up.
I was really chuffed when they announced that Ultimate X-Men Omnibus.
Yeah.
Because I kind of hope they do the line in omnibus format.
And that's where the maker comes from too, like the evil Reed Richards, who just seems to be Jonathan Hickman's most like favorite character next to Franklin Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Must be. It's the fixation on him is strange, but I mean, whatever. That's fine. I guess everybody.
He has done a lot of really cool things with the character though. And an evil Reed Richards is kind of a cool idea.
Have either of you guys been reading Hickman's X-Men, like the current stuff?
I have.
I read it to a point. I fell off.
Yeah, because I read Hoxpox and then kind of fell off after that. But I always kind of thought that Xavier was acting a whole lot like the Maker was. at the start of that, and I that never seemed like an accident to me. So I've just wondered if anything's ever come of that.
I have always wondered the same because he's obviously given Xavier this weird helmet, which is it's a cool look, but he's
Yeah,
never really
it's
covered.
a version of Cerebro.
Yeah, but I just always felt like there was more to his look in him, and there'd be like some sort of revelation to do with the cat that's never happened. It is just Xavier with a helmet on.
Yeah, I think a lot of Hickman's plans got derailed by Dan Slott and Marvel editorial, but that's a whole other conversation for a whole other video.
Yeah.
That'd be a good video.
It would be interesting, honestly, because I don't know any of the details, and I didn't start X-Men. I was pulling it because I bought into the hype. Like, everyone was talking about Hoxpox, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. After it finished, I called up my shop, and I was just like, every X title, put it on my pull list. And there was like fucking 6 of them.
Yeah.
And it got to be too much. So like I quit all of them. I was like, fuck it. There was one day, a couple months down the road, I called my shop again. I was like, cancel all my Marvel titles. I don't want them.
Do you know? See, when I look at X-Men line right now, do you know what it reminds me of? This is gonna sound weird. I don't know if you know wrestling or watch wrestling, Hess, but do you know when CM Punk took the WWE title and run away with it?
Yes.
You know, like one of the craziest things I ever saw. That stadium was rocking. His contract run out. He run away, right? That was one of the best like story plot elements I've ever seen, right? And I thought, see if WWE milk this, like just have him going around and like build up him coming back, or you know, him going to like random promotions and bringing the title around because they can't. I thought this could be genius. This could be legendary. And they brought him back like 2 Mondays later. And I'm like, it's too soon. You've ruined it. And they did. They totally squashed it. And it's the same with this. I think one of the biggest missed opportunities of all time in comics. And I mean, I've not read like Inferno or whatnot, but I was the same, Dan. I was like, put all of them in my pool list. I want all of them because this is insane. I'm really excited for this direction. And I really liked how in the credits of every book, it was like head of X, Jonathan Hickman. I thought, my God, this guy's stealing all this. This is a master plan.
Yeah.
It's going to be genius. And then as time went by and I read Ten of Swords, I was like, this is not Hickman. Like he's being, you could tell he's being screwed over. And then hearing about the Franklin Richards stuff, I was like, oh, this is game over. Like this will go down as one of the most shocking squandered opportunities I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, it's like the reason that Rick Remender will never work for Marvel again, right? He just got tired of that crap.
Yeah. If there's ever like one of those like podcasts or like audiobooks or whatever it is, like discussing this, or if there's like a documentary with what happened essentially behind the scenes with this Hickman book and whether or not Dan Slott like played a factor in like fucking the whole thing up, I'd be really curious to hear, even if it's 5 years from now and I still haven't gotten around to reading this X-Men title, I would still be curious to hear about what happened behind the scenes because I want to know, like, there's too much speculation at this point. Like, I want answers because I'm very curious.
I hope Hickman leaves someday and then spills the beans because he's still signed to Marvel. So I think that's the problem. I think the biggest example of the mess this whole thing is the Hickman X-Men Omnibus that's coming out in a couple months. Like this, it's Hickman's X-Men, but it does not have Hoxpox. It doesn't have extra swords. It's got so many gaps. It's ridiculous. It's got all his one-shots that you really don't play a part in his own series other than, like, if you're reading all of it, then his one-shots make sense. And they were early days when he was running it all. And it's just a mess of an omnibus.
Yeah, I don't think they went about it the best way they could have. Like, I kind of understand not having like House of X and was it Powers of X. I understand, like, I guess not including that, but the X of Swords or 10 of Swords, however you're supposed to say it, that not being part of it doesn't make sense.
The thing is, there's just a massive gap in the middle.
Honestly, they're doing weird things like that too with like the Thor by Jason Aaron omnibus, right? Realm of Kings or whatever it was came out, and that was like near the end of Jason Aaron's run of Thor, and the omnibus for his Thor: God of Thunder run is only just coming out like early next year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well, the thing
believe
is
correction, timeout.
Oh.
I think you meant War of the Realms because you said Realm of Kings, which is the DNA Cosmic Guardians.
Oh yeah, I did mix them up. You're right. Thank you for that.
I got your
Got
back.
my back. Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Connor?
The Thor complete collections give me the fear because normally the complete collections are like how the omnibus is going to be laid out.
Yep. That
And,
happened
like-
with X-Force and Hickman's Avengers and Fantastic Four are all being released that way.
Yeah, and I'm like, and almost like you just bring up Hickman's Avengers, like I can't fathom why Secret Wars isn't at the end of those omnibuses. Like that's the end of his Avengers run, really.
Yeah, it really should be included. But
Absolutely baffles
Infinity
me.
got its own omnibus, but it's also included in the 2 Hickman
Exactly.
omnibus as well.
That
It doesn't make any sense.
That is weird to me. When I found out, because I don't have Infinity, like the book, but I've always wanted to get it. And then when I found out that it was included, I believe it's in the 3rd complete collection, I was just like, this is like a whole ass event. But I guess because Infinity was like 3 books essentially tying into one event all at the same time, because it was Avengers, New Avengers, and then the actual Infinity book. Like you needed to read each of them in order. So maybe because it was that like
it is really intertwined with the 2 Avengers books that were going on, because Avengers and New Avengers were going on at the same time, but were separate stories, but still were like complicatedly interwoven with each other, because that's just what Hickman does.
Yeah, that's the worry that going on to like Thor. That's the worry for me with those omnibuses, that those omnibuses will have everything but War of Realms in them. Because am I spending that amount of money on an omnibus that 1 is not mapped in order, but 2 is just filled with shitty tie-ins?
Yeah, I'll be happy just to get the God of Thunder portion of Jason Aaron's run.
Yeah,
to tell you the truth, the rest of it
well,
is good, but it wasn't as good as the God of Thunder start that it had, like that first 25 issues.
The thing is that I hope that Venom's a good sign, because that Venom Omnibus that was announced by the Kate's one, that deeply surprised me that had both Absolute Carnage and King in Black in it, you know, and they both have omnibuses themselves as well.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe when they announced that.
So weird the way that Marvel and DC, for that matter, maps their omnibuses and complete collections and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think DC, my problem more lies with what there's no rhyme or reason to what they announced. I think their mapping is pretty all right, but when they announce stuff, I'm like, okay, but why? Why this? Why is this more important than other things that people are screaming for?
Yeah, and then they end up canceling it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You know, baffling.
So I think on that note, we can kind of close this out. So with that said, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff that, you know, all the cool YouTubers plug. Make sure you hit the notification bell, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, join our Facebook group that Connor shockingly did not already plug. Plugged it like 3 times last week, didn't bring it up this time. But yeah, do all that stuff. We're in there all the time. And let us know what you picked up. You know, let us know what we should have picked up that we didn't, except for me, because it's not my fault. I'll show you guys what I got next week. But yeah, let us know what you think about anything we said. And we will see you guys. Oh, wait. Previews is still down. It's acting weird. So there's not going to be a video for the 2nd week in a row. Other than that, I think everything else is still, you know, fairly on schedule. And with that said, we will see you guys next week.